Before we begin, this is a fictional audio drama created for entertainment purposes. Good evening. You're listening to the Residual Relay, a low-power civic signal, broadcasting from the Hardcastle Basin transmitter at reduced overnight output. I'm Elias Ward. It is currently 2:14 in the morning, and the broadcast day for most stations ended several hours ago. We did not. This is the long shift, the one nobody asks for and nobody remembers applying to. I've been running overnight programming since they stopped staffing it with 2 people and started staffing it with 1 person and a routing protocol. Let me get through the scheduled material. The Continuity Office Civil Infrastructure Report for the week of the 14th lists no active advisories in sectors 1 through 6. Road surface work continues along the M11 corridor between Aldrich Point and the Brideston Interchange. Drivers are asked to observe reduced speed postings between the hours of 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. That work has been ongoing since March. I pass it every Tuesday. They've moved the cones twice. Water service in the Upper Grey Hollow District will undergo pressure testing between 3 and 6 a.m. That's tonight, actually, if you're in that area. You may notice intermittent flow reduction. The office notes this is scheduled and unrelated to the main line replacement project that was completed last autumn. They always say that. Unrelated to. It's the civic version of don't worry about it. Air quality across the basin is listed as nominal. Pollen advisory is low. Overnight temperatures are expected to hold at 11 degrees through dawn, which is, let me check, currently projected at 5:47 a.m. Cloud cover is partial. Visibility is good. If you're up and you happen to look outside, you should be able to see most of the sky tonight. I mention that because it's increasingly rare this time of year. We've had overcast conditions for, 9 of the last 12 nights? So if you're the type to look up, tonight's worth it. Scheduled programming for this hour. We have the second half of the Archival Agriculture series, Root Systems and Regional Identity, which was recorded at the Hardcastle Agricultural Museum in 1991. After that, a tone calibration break, and then open signal until the 4 a.m. hour. Let me get the tape cued. Actually, hold on. Before I run the tape, let me check the message board. We've had a few overnight listener contacts come in through the text relay, and I like to read those before the hour turns. It keeps me honest, reminds me someone's actually out there. Most of these are routine. Signal quality reports from the southern relay area, all within tolerance. A correction from last week. I apparently mispronounced Velcross during the infrastructure segment. I said it with a hard L. Apparently it's soft. I've been saying it wrong for 2 years and nobody's told me until now. So, noted. Apologies to Velcross. There's one here I'll come back to. It came in about 40 minutes ago, marked non-urgent. I'll fold it in after the tape. Let me run the scheduled program. Elias Ward. All right. That was the second installment of the Agricultural Archive. I'm sure the 14 people who requested it are thrilled. Let me get back to that listener message I mentioned. This came in at 1:38 a.m. through the text relay system. It's from a listener in the outer Brideston area, no name attached, just a relay code. They write, was outside with the dog around 1:15. Looked up and saw what I thought was a contrail, but it wasn't moving. Straight line, very thin, running roughly north-south across the visible sky. No aircraft lights near it. It was there for at least 15 minutes. Is there a scheduled test flight corridor active tonight? Short answer, no. There is no scheduled test flight corridor active tonight. I have the Aviation Coordination Bulletin from the Continuity Office. It was included in the weekly packet, and there are no listed flight operations between midnight and 5 a.m. in any sector. Now, the most likely explanation is a high-altitude contrail from earlier in the evening that persisted in the upper atmosphere. That happens. Cold air, low wind shear at altitude, a contrail can remain visible for hours. It wouldn't move in any perceptible way. It would look fixed. That's the simplest reading. The reason I'm mentioning it at all is that while the tape was running, 2 more messages came in. One from a listener in the northern Grey Hollow relay area, and one routed through the Velcross repeater, which is about 140 kilometers south of the first report. Both described the same thing. A thin, straight, luminous line, stationary, running approximately north-south. Now, contrails don't typically present as luminous. They reflect ambient light moonlight, city light. But the word all 3 messages use is luminous, not bright, not glowing, luminous, as in producing its own light. I want to be careful here. Perception at night is unreliable. Contrast effects can make a reflective surface appear self-lit, and the moon is at about 70% tonight, which is more than enough to illuminate a high-altitude ice crystal formation and make it look like it's generating light rather than catching it. So that's where I'm landing for now. Persistent contrail, favorable atmospheric conditions. Unusual, but not unexplained. What I don't have an easy answer for is the geometry. If the Brideston observer and the Velcross observer are both seeing a line running north-south, and they're separated by 140 kilometers on a roughly east-west axis, then either they're looking at 2 different things, which is possible, or they're looking at the same thing, and it's high enough that the parallax doesn't shift the apparent orientation. That would put it considerably higher than commercial aircraft altitude. Let me see if the Meridian Observatory network has anything on the board tonight. They run an automated sky survey that covers most of the basin, and if there's an unusual atmospheric feature, it usually gets flagged. Their public status board shows all right. The automated survey for tonight is listed as running. No flags, no alerts, no notes, which means either they haven't seen it, or they have and haven't characterized it yet, or the automated system doesn't consider it notable. Any of those is possible. I'm not going to read into the absence. I'll keep an ear on the relay. If you're listening and you're in a position to look north or south from your location, and you see something that matches what I've described, a thin, straight, apparently stationary line, I'd appreciate a message through the standard text relay. Include your general location and the time of observation. I'm not asking because I think this is anything. I'm asking because 3 reports from separated locations are enough to be worth documenting. And documentation is what this station does between midnight and 5. Let me run the tone calibration, and I'll check back in a few minutes. Elias Ward. All right, I'm back. And so is the message board, since the calibration break, which was roughly 4 minutes. We've received 11 additional reports. I'm going to read the relay codes and locations only, because the content is functionally identical across all of them. Brideston District, 2 additional. Grey Hollow, 3. Velcross, 2. Aldrich Point, that's new. That's east, 1. Harcastle North, 2. And 1 routed through the Fenwick Junction repeater, which is, I actually had to look that up. That repeater serves a rural corridor almost 200 kilometers west of the basin center. 11 reports in 4 minutes, all describing the same feature, same orientation, same quality of light. Let me read one, because the phrasing is, it's precise, and I think precision matters here. This is from the Aldrich Point Observer. Straight line. Not a beam, no point source, no convergence, no width variation along its length. It appears to run from horizon to horizon, though trees block the northern endpoint from my position. The light quality is even along its entire visible length. I have been watching for 20 minutes. It is not flickered, dimmed, brightened, moved, or changed in any way. It is not flickered, dimmed, brightened, moved, or changed in any way. That sentence is doing a lot of work, because a contrail does change. Slowly, but it changes. Wind shear distorts it. Temperature gradients cause uneven dissipation. Even on a still night, there's drift. This observer is describing something with no drift. I'm going to update the characterization. I am no longer confident this is a contrail. I don't know what it is instead. I want to be clear about that. But the persistent contrail explanation requires some variability over a 20-minute observation window, and we're not seeing that reported by anyone. Let me check the observatory board again. Same status. Running. No flags. All right, let's keep going. Elias Ward. It's now 2:47 a.m. I want to update the listener count on this. When I started tracking reports at approximately 1:45, we had 3. We now have let me total the relay log. We have 41. 41 individual text relay contacts describing the same atmospheric feature. The geographic spread now includes every active relay zone in the Hardcastle Basin network. Every one, including 2 that I wasn't sure were still operational. I've also received, and this is different, a forwarded report from an amateur astronomy group that operates out of Grey Hollow. They're called the Basin Sky Survey, and they run their own imaging equipment. I believe it's a modest telescope with a digital imager. They've sent a text description of what their equipment is showing. I'm going to read it as received. Feature confirmed on wide field imager at 152. Apparent angular width, less than 0.01 degrees below our resolution limit for detailed analysis. Apparent angular length, at minimum 140 degrees of arc, potentially horizon to horizon, but obstructed at both endpoints by terrain. Spectral character, broadband visible. No dominant emission line detected, no infrared excess. No radio counterpart detected on our monitoring frequencies. Object or feature does not correspond to any cataloged satellite, orbital debris track, or scheduled launch trajectory. We have no classification for this and are requesting guidance from the Meridian Observatory network. Let me translate that into plain language. A local astronomy group pointed their telescope at the line. It's too thin for their equipment to measure properly. It stretches across almost the entire sky. It's producing visible light, but not excess heat. It's not on any frequency they can detect with radio equipment. It doesn't match anything in their catalogs. And they're asking the same question I am. What is this? I want to read a listener message that came in during that segment. This is from someone identified as Margot, relayed through the Velcross repeater. I showed it to my daughter. She's 7. She looked at it for a long time, and then she said, "It looks like someone drew on the sky with a ruler." I don't know why that made me bring her back inside, but it did. Okay. At 2:51 a.m., I received through the official Continuity Office text distribution channel, which routes automatically to registered civic broadcasters I received, what I'm going to characterize as a statement. It's brief. Let me read it in full. Continuity Office Atmospheric Monitoring Division. Public Information. Notice. 2024-CFR-1187. Issued 244. Subject. Visible atmospheric linear feature. Sectors 1 through 6. The Continuity Office is aware of public reports regarding a visible linear feature in the night sky across the Hardcastle Basin monitoring area. The feature has been provisionally classified under atmospheric observation protocols. Monitoring is ongoing. No public safety action is required at this time. Citizens are advised that routine overnight sky conditions may include unusual but non-hazardous visual phenomena. Further updates will be issued as appropriate. End notice. I'm going to do what I always do with official statements, which is read them once for content, and then read them again for what's absent. The statement confirms they're aware of it. Good. It says the feature has been provisionally classified under atmospheric observation protocols. That tells us they have a classification framework, and this feature has been placed in it. It does not tell us what the classification is. It says, no public safety action is required at this time. That's standard language. It is also a sentence that contains the phrase, at this time, which is the kind of qualifier you include when you want the option of changing your mind later. It says, routine overnight sky conditions may include unusual, but non-hazardous visual phenomena. I want to be fair, that's technically true. The sky does produce unusual phenomena, aurora, noctilucent clouds, satellite flares. But none of those match what's being described tonight, and the statement doesn't claim they do. It simply places this event in the neighborhood of those explanations without actually linking it to any of them. Here's what the statement does not say. It does not say what the feature is. It does not say when it was first detected. It does not say whether the Meridian Observatory network has been engaged. It does not say how long they expect it to persist. And it does not say whether they've seen it before. That last one matters, because if you already have an atmospheric observation protocol with a classification framework ready to receive this, that suggests a protocol that existed before tonight. I'm not speculating. I'm just noting the architecture of the response. It's a response shaped by preparation, not surprise. Let me take a few more listener contacts, and we'll continue. We've passed 50 reports. I'm going to stop counting individual messages and start tracking by relay zone. Every zone is now active. The Fennec Junction corridor, which is our most distant relay point, has sent 9 reports independently. That's a rural area. 9 reports from a region that, on a normal night, sends me 1 signal quality check and a correction about how I pronounce local place names. Something is holding people's attention. Elias Ward. It's 3:06 a.m. Here's where we are. The line is visible across the entire Hardcastle Basin coverage area. That's roughly 400 kilometers east to west and about 280 north to south. Every observer describes it identically. Thin, straight, luminous, stationary, running approximately north-south. No one has reported any change since first observation. No one. I want to expand our information base, and I'm going to ask for your help. If you are listening and you can see the line, I'd like you to do 3 things. First, note your position and the current time. Second, extend your arm fully and hold up 1 finger at arm's length. Tell me whether the line appears wider than, narrower than, or approximately the same width as your finger. Third, if you can see stars near the line within a few degrees on either side, tell me whether they appear normal, dimmer, brighter, or different in any quality you can describe. That's it. Position, apparent width, and star quality. Send it through the text relay. I'm asking because there's a question I can't answer from this desk, and it's the most basic question in observational science. Is this thing at a fixed distance, or does it appear differently depending on where you stand? While we wait for those responses, I want to note something about the institutional landscape tonight. The Continuity Office issued their notice at 2:44. It is now 3:06, 22 minutes. No follow-up. That's not unusual exactly. They operate on their own schedule. But I would note that when the atmospheric echo event occurred over Sectors 1 and 2, the Continuity Office issued 4 updates within the first 90 minutes. The Meridian Observatory Network Public Board still shows running with no flags. I've now checked it 6 times. The status hasn't changed, but the timestamp on the page has, meaning someone or something is updating the board without adding content. The page is being actively maintained. The information on it is not. I contacted the Observatory network through the Broadcaster Liaison channel. That's a text-based system they provide to registered civic outlets for routine sky condition queries. I sent the query at 2:53. Normal response time is 10 to 15 minutes. It's been 13 minutes. No response. I'm not going to frame that as silence. Not yet. I'm going to frame it as pending. Let me read some of the observation responses that are coming in. First cluster apparent width. 13 responses so far. All 13 say the line is narrower than a finger at arm's length. Several say much narrower. 2 describe it as having no measurable width, like a cut in something. I'm going to repeat that because I want to be accurate about what was said. 2 observers, independently, described the line as having no measurable width. They did not say very thin. They said it appears to have 0 width, as though it is a discontinuity rather than an object. That's a perceptual description. I understand that. A feature can appear to have 0 width if it's below the resolving power of the human eye at that distance. I'm noting it because it was offered independently by 2 people who, based on relay routing, are approximately 190 kilometers apart. Second cluster star quality near the line. This is where I need to slow down. Out of 11 responses that address star quality, 7 say stars near the line appear normal. 3 say they're unable to tell due to light conditions. And one says the following. Stars within approximately 2 degrees of the line appear to be there, but I had to look twice. It was like my eyes kept sliding past them the first time. I don't know what to do with that. My eyes kept sliding past them. That's not a standard atmospheric description. That's a perceptual report, and I can't verify it from here, but I'm including it because this station doesn't edit for comfort. Listener message. This one came in from someone identified as Thomas R., routed through the Harcastle North Relay. I'm a long-haul driver, pulled off at the rest area near marker 7 on the M11. I can see the line. I've been driving under open sky for about 4 hours tonight, and I can tell you with certainty it was not there at 11 p.m. when I started my route. It was not there at midnight when I passed through Aldrich Point. It was there when I pulled off at 1:30. So it appeared sometime between midnight and 1:30 a.m. I don't know if that helps, but I wanted someone to know that there's a before and an after for this. A before and an after. Yes. Thank you, Thomas. I want a note for the record that the Continuity Office notice referred to the feature as a visible atmospheric linear feature. The Amateur Astronomy Group described it as a feature with no classification. The observer in Aldrich Point described it as something that has not changed in any way. And now Thomas has given us a rough onset window, between midnight and 1:30 a.m. So we have a feature that appeared sometime in the last 2 to 3 hours, spans at minimum 400 kilometers of visible sky, produces its own light, has no measurable width, has no radio counterpart, has no infrared signature, has not changed since it appeared, and has been met with one official statement that does not describe it. I'm going to keep this channel open. If you're just joining, stay with me. I'll summarize as we go. Elias Ward, 3:24 a.m. I need to address a new category of report that started arriving approximately 10 minutes ago. Up until now, every message we've received has described the line as seeing a visual phenomenon, observed from the ground, characterized by appearance. Those reports continue to come in, and they remain consistent. The new reports are different. They describe effects. I'm going to read 3 of them, and then I'm going to be very careful about what I say next. First, relay zone, Gray Hollow, Inner District. My compass is behaving strangely. The needle has moved approximately 4 degrees east of its normal resting position. I checked it against a fixed reference. It is not fluctuating. It has moved to a new stable position and stopped. Second, Relay zone, Brideston, Southern Corridor. My weather station has a barometric pressure sensor. It's digital. I calibrated it last month. It is showing a pressure value that is 2.3 hectopascals lower than it was at midnight. That's not a normal overnight drop for stable conditions. I checked the manual backup gauge. It agrees. Third, relay zone, Fenwick Junction. The water in my rain gauge, I have a cylindrical clear gauge mounted on a post, is showing a meniscus that is slightly but visibly concave. Not normal for water in glass. It looks like it's being gently pulled upward at the edges. It wasn't doing this yesterday. Compass deviation, pressure drop, altered fluid behavior. I am not a physicist. I'm not qualified to tell you whether these three phenomena are related to each other or to the visible feature in the sky. I can tell you that we received them from 3 locations, spread across the full width of our coverage area, and that all 3 observers specifically asked whether anyone else was seeing similar effects. The answer, based solely on the reports I have, is yes. We have 4 additional compass deviation reports since the first, all showing eastward shift between 3 and 6 degrees. We have 2 additional pressure anomaly reports, though one of those is from a consumer-grade unit, and I'm not confident in its calibration. And we have 1 additional fluid report, this one from someone in the Aldrich Point zone who noticed the surface of water in a glass on their nightstand was not flat. I want to say something about what I'm doing right now. I am reading you these reports as they come in. I am not verifying them. I cannot verify them. I have no instruments in this room beyond the broadcast equipment and a clock. What I can do is present them, note the patterns, and let you make your own assessment. But I want to be honest with you. The pattern I'm seeing is not random. Compass shift, pressure change, and fluid surface distortion are consistent with a single class of cause. They're what you would expect to observe in the presence of an additional field, influence, something exerting a very slight, very uniform directional effect across a large area. I said I wasn't going to speculate. I'm not. I'm describing what the data looks like. What it looks like is something in the sky is not just visible. It's physically present. I need to read this next message carefully. It came in from someone identified as Helen, routed through the Gray Hollow relay. I can't sleep tonight, and I don't think it's just because of the line. My house feels wrong. I've lived here for 31 years, and I know what this house feels like at 3 in the morning. The air feels like it does before a storm. But there's no wind and no clouds. The cat won't come out from under the bed. I put a glass of water on the kitchen counter and stared at it for 5 minutes. Tess and I swear the surface was trembling, like something very far away was humming at a frequency I can't hear. I'm not frightened exactly. I'm aware. I'm aware of the sky in a way I've never been before, and I don't think I can stop being aware of it. I'm aware of the sky in a way I've never been before, and I don't think I can stop being aware of it. Thank you, Helen. I want to check the Observatory Network board again. The status has changed. The public board for the Meridian Observatory Network now reads, and I'm reading this exactly as it appears. Survey status. Paused. All sky monitoring temporarily suspended for recalibration. Estimated resumption. Pending. Temporarily suspended for recalibration. They've turned off their sky survey at 3:30 in the morning on a night when 400 kilometers of observers are reporting an unidentified luminous feature that spans the sky. They didn't flag anything. They didn't issue a report. They paused. I have still received no response to my broadcaster liaison query, which is now 37 minutes overdue. Let me check the continuity office channel. No additional notices. The original public information notice from 244 remains the only statement. I need a moment. Okay, I'm here. Let's continue. Elias Ward, 3:41 a.m. You are listening to the residual relay. This is a fictional broadcast. Since our last update, the report count has passed the threshold where individual counting is useful. I've received messages from every relay zone in our network. Based on the population density of those zones, and the ratio of reports to estimated awake population at this hour, a conservative extrapolation puts the number of people who have directly observed the feature tonight at somewhere between 300,000 and 350,000. I want to focus on something else. At 3:38 a.m. 3 minutes ago, the Continuity Office issued a second notice through the Civic Distribution Channel. It is longer than the first. It contains a term I have not heard before, and I need to read it to you in full before I say anything about it. Continuity Office Atmospheric Monitoring Division. Public Information. Notice 2-024-CFR-1191, issued 338. Subject: Revised Classification, Visible Linear Atmospheric Feature. The Continuity Office, in coordination with the Meridian Observatory Network, is issuing a revised classification for the visible atmospheric feature reported across sectors 1 through 6. The feature has been reclassified from provisional atmospheric observation to the following designation: Persistent Linear Boundary. Archival Reference CFR-78-0041. This designation corresponds to a recognized observational category within the Office's long-duration monitoring framework. The feature is consistent with documented characteristics outlined under this reference. No public safety action is required. Citizens who experience mild disorientation, unusual auditory perception, or changes in ambient environmental readings are advised that these effects are anticipated under the current classification and are expected to resolve. The Continuity Office will continue to monitor. End notice. I need to go through this piece by piece. Persistent Linear Boundary. That is the new name. Not atmospheric feature, not visual phenomenon. Boundary. The word boundary means an edge, a limit, a line where one thing ends and another begins. They are now calling this a boundary. Archival Reference CFR-78-0041. CFR is the Continuity Office's filing prefix. 78 is a year. 1978. 041 is a document number. This feature, the thing that 340,000 people are looking at right now, has an archival reference from 1978. They named it in 1978. Whatever this is, whatever they're looking at, whatever we are all looking at, there is a document, filed 46 years ago, that describes it. The classification framework wasn't built tonight. It wasn't built this year. It was built in 1978, and it has been sitting in an archive, waiting. Recognized observational category within the Office's long-duration monitoring framework. Long duration. They have a framework for things that last a long time, and this thing fits inside it. And then, this is the part I need you to hear. Citizens who experience mild disorientation, unusual auditory perception, or changes in ambient environmental readings are advised that these effects are anticipated under the current classification. Anticipated. Not possible. Not under investigation. Anticipated. They knew this would happen. The compass deviations, the pressure changes, the fluid behavior, Helen's house feeling wrong at 3 in the morning, those are anticipated effects, filed under a classification from 1978. And the final phrase, expected to resolve. Not will resolve. Not are resolving. Expected to. Future tense. Conditional confidence. Which means they're not seeing resolution yet. I want to be very clear about what just happened to the language of this event. At 2:44, we had an atmospheric linear feature and no public safety action required. At 3:38, we have a persistent linear boundary with an archival reference, anticipated physiological effects, and an expectation, not a confirmation of resolution. The event did not change. The language changed. And when institutional language changes at 3:38 in the morning, it's because someone decided that the previous language was no longer adequate and that the risk of updating it was less than the risk of keeping it. That's not reassurance. That's calibration. I'm going to try something. The archival reference is CFR-78-0041. Our station maintains a partial archive of Continuity Office public documents we're required to as a civic broadcaster. I have physical binders going back to the early 1980s. Let me see if the reference appears anywhere. I found a reference, not the document itself, we don't have the original, but the document number appears in an index from 1983. The index is a list of Continuity Office archival materials that were reclassified from public access to restricted access as part of a records consolidation. The entry reads CFR-78-0041, Persistent Linear Boundary Observation Protocol and Response Framework. Reclassified November 12, 1983. Access, restricted Tier 3. It was public. It was made restricted in 1983. And tonight, in a notice they clearly did not intend as a detailed explanation, they used its name. They used its file number. They told us it exists. They did not tell us what it says. I don't know what to do with this except keep going. So let's keep going. Elias Ward, 3:58 a.m. Dana Cross is on the field relay. Dana, can you hear me? Dana Cross. I can hear you, Elias. I'm at the Gray Hollow Overlook, the one on the ridge above the reservoir. I drove up about 20 minutes ago. Elias Ward. What are you seeing? Dana Cross. I'm seeing it. The line. I want to be useful, Elias. So I'm going to try to describe it the way I'd describe it if I didn't know anything about what's been reported tonight. It's a straight line across the sky. Perfectly straight. Running from the northern horizon to the southern horizon, or at least as far as I can see in both directions. It has a quality of light that I don't have a comparison for. It's not like a beam. It's not like a reflection. It looks like a seam. Like the sky has a seam in it, and light is coming through from behind. I've been watching it for 17 minutes. It hasn't moved. Nothing about it has changed. And I want to tell you something that I didn't include in my preliminary relay, because I wasn't sure, but I'm sure now. I can hear something. Elias Ward. Describe it. Dana Cross. It's not a sound in the way I would normally. It's not an identifiable sound. It's more like the quality of the silence has changed. You know how you can tell the difference between an empty room and a room where someone is standing very still behind you. The silence is different. It has a texture. That's what the sky sounds like right now. Like the silence has a texture it didn't have before. Elias Ward. The Continuity Office notice referenced unusual auditory perception as an anticipated effect. Dana Cross. I know. I read it. But I want to flag something for you. There are a couple here at the Overlook. They were here when I arrived. I talked to them briefly. They've been here since about 1:45 a.m. They said the line was visible when they arrived. Elias. I got here at 3:40. For the first 4 minutes, I did not see it. Elias Ward. Say that again. Dana Cross. I drove up to the Overlook. I got out of the car. I looked up. I saw stars. I saw the moon. I saw a clear sky. No line. I walked to the railing and looked more carefully. I turned in a full circle. Nothing. It wasn't until I stopped actively searching and just let my eyes rest on the sky. It wasn't until I stopped looking for it that I could see it. And once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. But for 4 minutes, standing in the same spot where two other people were clearly watching it. I couldn't see it at all. Elias Ward and the couple confirmed it was continuously visible to them during those 4 minutes. Dana Cross. Yes, I asked specifically. They said it never disappeared. They were watching it the entire time. Elias Ward. So it's not intermittent. It was there. You couldn't perceive it immediately. Dana Cross. That's my reading. Elias Ward, which means the line didn't appear between midnight and 1:30. Donna Cross. Not necessarily. It means Thomas, the driver, couldn't perceive it at those earlier times. We don't know when it appeared. We know when people started being able to see it. Elias Ward. That changes things. If perception of the line is variable, if some people see it immediately, and others require a period of exposure or attention, then the onset window isn't an arrival. It's a recognition threshold. The line may have been present long before anyone reported it. It may have been present for hours or longer, and that means every piece of timing data we've collected tonight is a record of when people started seeing it, not when it started being there. Dana Cross. There's something else. The couple here, they told me that when they first arrived at 1:45, the line appeared to be in one position, approximately north-south, like everyone's described. But they said that over the last 2 hours, it has rotated very slightly, by about, they estimated, 1 or 2 degrees clockwise when viewed from below. I cannot confirm that. I haven't been here long enough to detect rotation, but they were very specific about it. Elias Ward, 1 to 2 degrees over 2 hours. Donna Cross. Yes. Elias Ward. That's slow enough that most observers wouldn't notice, especially if they're making single observations rather than sustained watches. Dana Cross. That's what I thought. Elias Ward. Dana, stay at the overlook. I want a continuous observation point. Dana Cross. I'm not going anywhere. Elias Ward. 4:09 a.m. I want to acknowledge that I'm working past the point where I can organize this into a clean narrative. Things are arriving faster than I can contextualize them. So I'm going to shift to a more compressed format. Updates as they come. Less framing. I trust you to carry the meaning. Elias Ward, 4:14 a.m. The Fenwick Junction relay has stopped transmitting. I want to be precise about this. The Fenwick Junction repeater, which serves the Western Rural Corridor and has been actively forwarding listener reports all night, ceased relaying at 4:11 a.m. I'm not receiving an error message. I'm not receiving static. I'm receiving nothing. The relay is simply not present on the network. Fenwick Junction is the farthest relay point from the Hardcastle Basin transmitter. It sits approximately 220 kilometers west. At 4:13, the markers reach relay second farthest, approximately 190 kilometers northwest dropped. Same profile. No error, no degradation. Just absence. I'm going to check the remaining relays. Aldrich Point East, 160 kilometers responding. Velcross South, 140 kilometers responding. Brideston Southwest, 120 kilometers responding. Grey Hollow Central, 40 kilometers responding. Hardcastle North, 30 kilometers responding. Everything inside 140 kilometers is still up. Everything beyond that radius is... I've lost the Overton Pass relay as well. That's 180 kilometers southeast. I wasn't tracking it because it's low traffic, but it's gone. The farthest relays went first. Let me check Aldrich Point again. Aldrich Point is showing reduced signal strength. It was nominal 10 minutes ago. It is now at approximately 60% of normal relay power. I'm going to say what this looks like, and then I'm going to keep monitoring. It looks like a contraction. The communications network is contracting inward, not failing uniformly, contracting. From the edges toward the center, The farthest points are going first, and the closer points are weakening. I don't know what's causing it. The relays are independent units with independent power supplies. There's no common failure mode that would take them down in order of distance from a central point, unless something is affecting the propagation environment itself, the medium through which the signals travel. Dana Cross, signal quality slightly degraded, a faint harmonic hum beneath her voice. Elias Ward. Go ahead, Dana. Dana. Cross. I'm still at the Overlook. The couple left about 10 minutes ago. I'm alone up here. I want to report 2 things. First, the line is brighter. Not dramatically. But when I first perceived it, I would have described it as faint. The kind of thing you'd lose if you turned on a flashlight. Right now, it's the most visible thing in the sky besides the moon. It hasn't moved noticeably. I can't confirm the rotation yet, but its luminance has increased. Second, the silence I described earlier has changed. The textured silence. It now has a directional quality. It's coming from the line. I don't mean I hear the line making a sound. I mean the quality of silence is directionally associated with where the line is. If I face it, the texture is strongest. If I turn 90 degrees, it diminishes. If I turn my back to it, it's almost normal. I've never experienced anything like this. Elias Ward, are you feeling any of the other anticipated effects? Disorientation? Compass variation? Dana Cross. I brought a compass. It's shifted, I'd say, 7 degrees east now, more than the earlier reports. And I don't want to say disorientation. I want to say something more specific. I feel like I am extremely precisely oriented. Like I know exactly where the line is at all times, even when I close my eyes. That's not disorientation. That's the opposite. Elias Ward. Dana, I need to tell you that I've lost 3 relays at the outer edge of the network. Dana Cross. I heard. Elias, are you losing me? Elias Ward. Your signal is degraded but holding. You're only 40 kilometers out. You're inside the current boundary. Dana Cross. Current boundary. Elias Ward. I shouldn't have used that word. I mean the current operational radius. Dana Cross. No, you were right the first time. Elias Ward. 4:22 a.m. Aldrich Point relay has dropped. That was 160 kilometers. The operational radius is now approximately 140 kilometers in contracting. Velcross is weakening. I estimate we have 30 to 40 minutes of full relay coverage within the inner zones. I want to read a listener message that came in from Velcross just before the signal began to weaken. This is from someone identified as Paul. I went outside to check if the line was still there. It is. But I need to tell someone this. When I stepped off my porch, I felt lighter. Not emotionally, physically. Like the ground wasn't pulling as hard. I jumped, and I think I know how this sounds. I think I went higher than I should have. Not a lot. Maybe an inch more than normal. But I've jumped off that step 1,000 times, and my body knows what it feels like. This was different. Please tell me someone else is reporting this. I can't confirm what Paul is describing. I can tell you that a reduction in apparent gravity, even a fractional one, would be consistent with the compass and pressure anomalies if they share a common cause. It would also be consistent with the fluid meniscus reports from earlier. Something is exerting influence. The instruments are telling us. The people are telling us. The relays are telling us by going silent. I'm going to stay on this frequency. If you're hearing me, stay with me. Elias Ward, 4:31 a.m. Velcross is gone. Brideston is at 40% and dropping. Grey Hollow and Hardcastle North are still nominal, but the operational radius is now under 120 kilometers. I am losing the network from the outside in, and I cannot stop it. A second continuity office notice arrived at 4:28. It is the shortest communication I have ever received from them. I'm reading it in full. Public Information Notice 2024-CFR-1193, issued 4/28. The persistent linear boundary event is now classified as active. Effects are no longer confined to observational parameters. The Continuity Office is measuring, not counting. Percentage of affected monitoring stations, 38% and rising. All citizens in sectors 1 through 6 are advised to remain indoors and minimize exposure to open sky. This advisory will remain in effect until rescinded. End notice. The Continuity Office is measuring, not counting. They wrote that in an official public notice. They moved from counting individual effects to measuring the percentage of the system that's been affected. That transition from counting to measuring is the transition you make when individual data points are no longer meaningful because the phenomenon has become continuous. You don't count raindrops inside a flood. 38% of monitoring stations affected. I don't know what affected means in this context, whether it means compromised or non-responsive or reporting anomalous data. The notice doesn't specify, and the phrase "and rising" is doing work that the rest of the notice refuses to do. 38% and rising means they're watching a number climb, and they've decided to tell us the number rather than wait for it to stop climbing, which means they don't know when it stops. Minimize exposure to open sky. That's the advisory. Not seek shelter, not emergency. Minimize exposure, as though the sky is a dosage. Dana Cross, signal now clearly degraded. The hum is louder, her voice thinner. Elias, I need to report. Elias Ward, go ahead. Dana Cross, the line has changed. For the first time since I've been observing, it has visibly changed. I need to say this carefully, it's wider. Not much. But it was a line, and now it's a band. A very narrow band. I think I can see a difference between the two edges. The light is the same, but there's a width to it now that wasn't there before. And Elias, the stars behind it. Elias Ward. What about them? Dana Cross. They're gone. The stars that were behind the line, or the band, they're not dimmed. They're not obscured. They're absent. There is a strip of sky where there are no stars, and the strip is getting wider. Slowly, but I can see it happening in real time. It's not blocking them. That's what I want to say. It doesn't look like something in front of them. It looks like the sky isn't there in that strip, like that portion of the sky has been replaced with something that has no stars in it. Elias Ward, how wide, Dana? Dana Cross. Now? Maybe half a degree. The width of the moon, roughly. Where an hour ago it was a hairline. It's widening. The boundary, the persistent linear boundary. It's opening. Elias Ward. I was going to say something. I was going to say that this reminds me of watching something wake up. I'm not going to say that. That's not useful. That's not reportable. What I can tell you is this. The compass deviation at this station, my station, the Hardcastle Basin transmitter, is now 11 degrees east. I have a simple magnetic compass on this desk. It's been here for years. I looked at it just now, and the needle is pointing in a direction that is not north. And it has been moving steadily since I first checked it 2 hours ago. The barometric pressure in this room has dropped by 4.7 hectopascals since midnight. My ears feel the way they feel when you drive up a mountain road. Not painful. Present. And when I walked past the window in the hallway 3 minutes ago, the window that faces north, I could see it. From inside this building. Through a window. The line. The band. Whatever it is now. I could see the light coming through the glass. Brideston Relay has dropped. We are down to Grey Hollow and Hardcastle North. Effective radius, 40 kilometers. If you are listening and you are outside this radius, I don't know if you can hear me. I don't know who can hear me. But I'm still here. and I am still broadcasting. Elias Ward, 4:49 a.m. I need to report a change. At approximately 4:42, Dana Cross reported that the widening of the band had slowed. She estimated the width at approximately 1.1 degrees of arc, roughly twice the apparent diameter of the moon, and described the rate of expansion as decelerating. At 4:45, the Brideston relay came back online, weak, maybe 20% of nominal, but present, the first relay to return. At 4:47, my compass, the one on this desk, moved, not east, as it has been doing all night, west, back toward north, by approximately 2 degrees. Something is changing direction. The pressure in this room is still low. I can still feel it in my ears. But I believe it has stabilized. It's not dropping further. I want to be careful about what I say next, because the temptation right now is enormous. The temptation is to say, it's stopping. The temptation is relief. And I don't trust relief at 4:49 in the morning during an event that has a file number from 1978. So here's what I'll say. The rate of change has decreased across multiple independent measurements. That is a factual statement. It does not mean the event is ending. It may mean the event is transitioning. Continuity Office Notice received 4:46. Public Information. Notice 2024-CFR-1194, issued 0446. Monitoring station effect rate has stabilized at 57%. No additional stations have reported anomalous readings in the last 6 minutes. The boundary feature appears to have entered a stationary phase. Citizens are advised to maintain indoor positions. The minimize exposure advisory remains in effect. End notice. Stationary phase. So they're seeing what we're seeing. The expansion is paused, but 57%. More than half of their monitoring infrastructure was affected before it paused. And the notice does not say that the affected stations have recovered. It says no additional stations have joined them. The number stopped climbing. It did not go down. Dana Cross, signal marginally improved. The hum is still present, but her voice is clearer. Elias Ward. I'm here. Dana. Cross. The band has stopped widening. I can confirm that it's been stable for about 7 minutes, but I want to describe what it looks like now, because it's different from what it was an hour ago, and I think people should know. There is a strip across the sky, running approximately north-south, maybe 1 or 2 degrees off from true north-south now. The rotation was real, and it is approximately 1 degree wide. Within that strip, there are no stars, no visible light from behind it. It is dark, but not the dark of the night sky. The night sky has depth. You look at it, and you feel distance. This strip has no depth. It looks flat. It looks like a surface, like looking at a wall from very, very far away. And the light at the edges, the luminous quality that people first reported, is still there. Both edges glow. Not the interior, just the edges. 2 parallel lines of light with darkness between them. Elias Ward, an opening with lit edges and a flat, dark interior. Dana Cross. Yes. Elias Ward, and it has stopped expanding. Dana Cross. For now. Elias, one more thing. The couple who were here earlier, they told me they'd been watching since 1:45, and it was a single thin line. Now it's a band, with 2 edges. What started as 1 line became 2. I keep trying to figure out whether it widened or whether it split, and I don't think that distinction is as clear as it should be. Elias Ward. The Fenwick Junction relay just reappeared. Barely. 5% signal. But it's there. It's sending a carrier tone. No data. Just presence. The network is contracting back outward. I should feel good about that. I should feel relieved. I do not feel relieved. I feel like I'm watching something exhale. 4:56 a.m. Dawn is projected at 5:47, less than an hour. I don't know what light will do to this. Elias Ward, 5:12 a.m. The situation has been stable, or at least stationary, for approximately 23 minutes. The band remains visible. The edges remain luminous. The dark interior remains flat and starless. Compass deviations have partially corrected. I'm reading 6 degrees east at this station, down from a peak of 11. Pressure has recovered by about 1.5 hectopascals. Relays are slowly reappearing. The Continuity Office has not issued a further update. The Meridian Observatory Network Public Board now reads, survey status, paused, recalibration ongoing, resumption time, not yet determined. Not pending, not yet determined. That's a downgrade. I want to read one final listener message. It came in from someone identified as Claire, routed through the Harcastle North relay. I've been watching all night. I have a telescope, a good one, not professional, but good. I pointed it at the dark strip between the two edges, at maximum magnification. I want to describe what I saw, and I want to be believed. The dark area is not empty. It's not blank. At magnification, there are structures. Not stars, not clouds. Structures. They look like lines, thinner lines, inside the larger strip, running perpendicular to the main boundary, evenly spaced, hundreds of them, like looking at a comb from very far away, or the teeth of something. They are not moving. They are not luminous. They are visible only because they are a slightly different shade of dark than the space around them. I have been doing amateur astronomy for 22 years. I have looked at every kind of object the sky contains. I have never seen geometry like this. This is not a natural formation. This is not atmospheric. This is a structure. Someone or something built this. I can't verify that. I cannot look through Claire's telescope. I cannot confirm what she saw. But I'm going to read you one more thing, and then I'm going to need a moment. The archival index entry I found earlier, CFR-78-0041, Persistent Linear Boundary Observation Protocol and Response Framework, had a detail I did not read on air. The index entry includes a one-line summary of each archived document. The summary for CFR-78-0041 reads, Response Framework for the recurrence of a previously documented linear boundary feature, including updated observation protocols and revised structural assessment. Recurrence. Previously documented. Revised. This isn't the first time. The 1978 document wasn't the first observation. It was the response framework for when it came back, which means there is an earlier document, an original observation. A first time someone looked up and saw this, and the word revised means the structural assessment changed. Someone looked at it once and concluded, and then someone looked at it again and drew a different conclusion. I keep coming back to Claire's word. Structure. Something with internal geometry, something with evenly spaced elements, something that, when you look at it closely enough, has parts. Dana. Dana Cross. I'm here. Elias Ward. Do you have magnification? Dana Cross. I have binoculars in the car, standard 10 by 42. Elias Ward. Would you? Dana Cross. I already looked, Elias. About 10 minutes ago. She's right. There are lines inside. I can see them. Elias Ward, 5:34 a.m. The sky to the east is beginning to lighten. Dawn is 13 minutes away by the published schedule. The band is still there. Both edges are still luminous, though the contrast against the sky is changing as the ambient light increases. Within the next 20 to 30 minutes, the question will become whether the feature remains visible in daylight, or whether it's only perceptible against a dark sky. If it disappears at dawn, that doesn't mean it's gone. Dana's experience taught us that. Something can be there and not be seen. Something can be present, for we don't know how long before a single person can perceive it. The relays are mostly back. Fenwick Junction is at 30%. Marker's reach has returned. Aldrich Point is at half power, but functional. The contraction has reversed. Whatever was suppressing the signal propagation is easing, though it has not fully released. The Continuity Office has issued no further notices. The Meridian Observatory network remains paused with resumption time not yet determined. I have not received a response to my broadcaster liaison query. It is now 2 hours and 41 minutes overdue. I don't expect one. I want to say something. Not as a host. Not as a broadcaster. Just as someone who has been sitting in this room since midnight, watching instruments move and reading words from people I cannot see. I always thought if something was up there, if something was really up there, it would arrive. It would come from somewhere. There would be a before and an after, and the difference would be obvious, and we'd all agree on the moment it changed. But that's not what happened tonight. The line was there before anyone saw it. It was named before anyone alive thought to name it. It was documented, filed, reclassified, archived, and forgotten, and then it came back, exactly as the file said it would. And we all went outside and looked up at something that has been returning for longer than any of us have been here. I don't think we're looking at something that arrived. I think we're looking at something that has always been there and has, for reasons we do not understand, become visible again. Dana Cross. Elias. The sun's coming up. The band is fading. I can still see the edges, but barely. The interior, the structure that's gone, lost in the light. But the silence is still there. The directional silence. It hasn't faded with the light. I can still feel where it is, even without seeing it. Elias Ward, 5:47 a.m. dawn. The visible band has faded from unaided perception. Instruments at this station still show residual compass deviation of 3 degrees east and a pressure deficit of 1.1 hectopascals. The relay network is operational, but degraded at the outer edges. The Continuity Office advisory to minimize exposure to open sky has not been rescinded. I'm going to close the overnight broadcast, somewhere in the archives, in a document we're not allowed to see, written by someone whose name isn't on the index. In a year that predates the 1978 framework, there is a first observation. Someone saw this for the first time. They looked up at the sky and saw a straight line where there should not have been one, and they wrote it down. And in the process of writing it, they used a word or a phrase that was later revised. The structural assessment changed. I keep thinking about what the first word might have been, before the revision, before someone decided the original description was wrong. I think the first word might have been door. This has been the residual relay, overnight civic signal, Harcastle Basin transmitter. I'm Elias Ward. The line is still there. You just can't see it right now. Good morning.